Imagine sitting in a quiet room over 100 years ago. The year is 1910. There are no smartphones, no antibiotics, and certainly no modern hospitals as we know them today. But what there is electricity. Still new, still mysterious, and still filled with the promise of magic. In front of you sits a strange machine. It hums softly, dials spin, cords snake out of it like tentacles. And you're calmly sitting there, your arms and legs plunged into buckets of warm water, buckets connected to this buzzing device. Welcome to the electric bath. This was one of the most fascinating and bizarre medical inventions of the early 20th century, a device that promised to cure pain, boost energy, and restore life using the power of electricity and water. But was it a miracle, or a mistake charged with deadly consequences? Let's dive deep into the shocking story of one of history's most electrifying medical treatments. To understand the electric bath, we have to rewind a bit further, back to the late 1800s and early 1900s. This was an age of rapid change. The world was being reshaped by invention after invention. Electricity had burst onto the scene like fire from the gods. Suddenly, cities were glowing at night. Homes had electric lamps. Telephones were connecting voices across great distances. Trains were running faster. People were dazzled, enthralled, and hopeful. Electricity wasn't just a tool, it was the future. And that future, many believed, included healing the human body. Why not? If electricity could light up an entire city, surely it could fix a sore joint, a weakened heart, or a tired brain. Thus began a wave of so-called electrotherapies. Some were based on genuine curiosity and science, others, pure quackery. And right in the middle of that electric revolution stood a device now almost forgotten, the electric bath. So what exactly was an electric bath? Imagine a chair surrounded by large buckets or basins, one for each arm, one for each foot. The person sits down and places their limbs inside. The basins are filled with water, often warm. Then, from the machine mounted on the wall or nearby, wires are dipped into the water. These are electrodes. Once the doctor or operator flips the switch, a gentle electric current begins to flow through the water and into the patient's body. You might feel tingling, muscle twitching, sometimes even a numbness or warmth. This, doctors believed, was the healing force at work. The device itself looked like something out of a science fiction novel. Large dials and analog meters, thick copper coils, clicking relays. It was a mix of science and mystery, and to many patients, it was downright magical. The electric bath was used primarily to treat rheumatism, a term that, back then, was used to describe all sorts of pain, inflammation, and stiffness in the joints and muscles. Today, we might call some of it arthritis, fibromyalgia, or even chronic fatigue syndrome. But in 1910, it was all lumped together. Other reported uses included treatments for neuralgia, nerve pain, poor circulation, muscle atrophy, paralysis, and even depression. Doctors believed that electricity could stimulate the nerves and muscles, boost blood flow, and awaken weakened parts of the body. Some even claimed it could restore sexual vitality or mental clarity. It sounds wild today, but for people who had little else available, this was a serious option. Electric baths weren't just found in hospitals. They were also popular in health spas, sanitariums, and even luxury hotels. One of the most famous names tied to this movement was Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. Yes, the same Kellogg behind the cornflakes. He ran the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan, which became a center for experimental treatments, including electric baths, light therapy, and mechanical massage. People traveled from around the country, and even Europe, for a chance to undergo these cutting-edge treatments. Some wealthier individuals even installed electric bath units at home, believing regular sessions would keep them youthful, healthy, and full of life. Here's the big question: did it actually work? The answer is complicated. Some patients claimed immediate relief. They said their pain lessened, their movement improved, their minds felt sharper, and there's a little science to back that up. Mild electrical stimulation can, in fact, help reduce muscle spasms, promote circulation, and ease certain kinds of nerve pain. Today, we use something called TENS, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation, which is a modern version of this idea. But the 1910 electric baths weren't well regulated. The strength of the currents varied wildly. Some were far too strong, others didn't do much at all. And then, of course, there was the danger. Electricity and water don't mix easily, especially in a time before grounded outlets and strict safety codes. There were reports of people suffering burns, blackouts, or muscle seizures during electric bath treatments. Some experienced worsened symptoms, and while rare, there were even deaths attributed to faulty machines or overly aggressive treatments. Doctors often had little understanding of how to properly dose electric current. There were no standards, no testing protocols. It was trial and error, with real human lives. But the belief in electricity was so strong that many patients were willing to take the risk. In their minds, it was better than the pain they lived with every day. To understand why people trusted the electric bath, you have to understand the spirit of the times. This was the dawn of the modern era. Everything was changing fast: transportation, communication, even human health. Electricity wasn't just power, it was hope. And for people suffering with chronic pain or illnesses, it was a symbol that something better was coming. It also didn't hurt that electric devices looked impressive. Giant glowing tubes, clicking switches, buzzing wires. These weren't just treatments, they were performances. It gave patients the comforting illusion that science was doing something, even when it wasn't. By the 1930s and 40s, things began to change. Medical science advanced. Pain relievers became more effective, physical therapy improved, and rigorous testing began to separate real treatments from dangerous fads. The electric bath gradually fell out of favor. Hospitals removed the machines. Health spas turned to other therapies. Some devices were repurposed. Others were scrapped. A few survived, collecting dust in museums or antique collections, a strange symbol of how far medicine had come and how far it had to go. But the story doesn't end there. Today, electrotherapy is still a part of modern medicine. Devices like TENS units, EMS trainers, and nerve stimulators are used in hospitals, physical therapy clinics, and even at home. The difference? Modern machines are based on research. They're tested, regulated, and precisely calibrated. The electric bath walked so today's electrotherapy could run. And in that sense, this strange machine from 1910 played an important role. It taught medicine to explore, to question, and most importantly, to learn from its mistakes. So the next time you plug in your phone or flip on a light switch, remember, electricity was once more than just power. It was a dream that it could cure, restore, and renew the human body. And for a brief moment in history, people believed that sitting in a chair, surrounded by humming wires and warm water, could be the path to health. It may look ridiculous to us now, but for the people of 1910, it was hope. Thanks for watching Strange Chapters. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most unusual medical inventions, hit that like button, subscribe for more curious stories from the past, and tell us in the comments, would you have tried the electric bath? Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and never stop questioning the past.